When most people think about success, they imagine sudden bursts of motivation. They picture themselves waking up one morning, feeling unstoppable, filled with energy, ready to conquer every goal on their list. But the truth is, that picture almost never lasts. Motivation is like a spark. It can light the fire, but it doesn't keep it burning. What really keeps the fire alive is self-discipline, the quiet, often invisible force that pushes you to do what needs to be done long after motivation has faded. Think about it. How many times have you felt motivated to start something new? A workout routine, a diet, a study plan, a new project. In the beginning, motivation feels powerful. You're excited, you're inspired, you're convinced this time will be different. But then, days or weeks later, life gets in the way. You wake up tired. You feel lazy. You lose interest. The voice in your head starts whispering excuses. And before you know it, that plan you were so committed to has faded into the background. This is where most people give up. Not because they lack goals, not because they lack dreams, but because they've been relying on motivation instead of building discipline. Self-discipline is the bridge between goals and achievements. It's what separates those who dream from those who actually do. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. In fact, most of the time, it feels boring. But discipline has one superpower. It doesn't care how you feel in the moment. It focuses only on what needs to be done. When you learn to rely on discipline instead of motivation, you unlock the ability to stay consistent even when your emotions, your energy, or your circumstances are working against you. Let's look at it from a psychological perspective. Motivation is an emotion, a temporary state influenced by your environment, your hormones, your sleep, even what you ate for breakfast. It's unpredictable, it fluctuates. Discipline, on the other hand, is a system. It's built on habits, routines, and intentional choices. It's not about waiting to feel inspired. It's about creating structures that keep you moving forward whether you feel inspired or not. Psychologists often describe discipline as a form of self-regulation. It's your ability to control impulses, delay gratification, and align your behavior with your long-term values instead of your short-term feelings. This is the same psychological muscle that keeps someone from eating the entire cake when they're dieting, or keeps a student at their desk studying when they'd rather watch Netflix, or pushes an athlete to keep training even when the excitement of competition is months away. One of the most famous studies that demonstrates the power of self-discipline is the Stanford Marshmallow Experiment. In this study, children were given a simple choice. Eat one marshmallow now, or wait for a short period of time and receive 2 marshmallows later. The researchers tracked these kids over decades, and what they found was fascinating. The children who were able to delay gratification, who resisted the temptation for an immediate reward, tended to do better in life overall. They had better health, stronger relationships, more successful careers. Why? Because they had developed the ability to control impulses and make decisions aligned with their future goals instead of their momentary desires. But here's the thing, self-discipline isn't something you're just born with. It's not a fixed trait. It's a skill, and like any skill, it can be trained, strengthened, and mastered. The more you practice discipline in small things, the stronger it becomes for the big things. For example, waking up at the same time every day, making your bed, sticking to a small promise to yourself. These tiny acts of discipline are like push-ups for your brain. They build the mental muscles you need to tackle bigger challenges. Another important psychological concept behind discipline is the idea of identity. Too often, we approach discipline as if it's a battle of willpower. We think, I just need to force myself to do this thing. But willpower is limited. It runs out. A more powerful approach is to tie discipline to your identity, who you believe you are. For example, instead of saying, I'm trying to work out more, tell yourself, I am the type of person who doesn't miss workouts. That subtle shift in language changes everything. Because when discipline becomes part of who you are, it stops being a constant battle. You don't need to argue with yourself about whether to go to the gym. You simply do it, because it's who you are. Consistency is what truly matters here. Anyone can be motivated for a day. But self-discipline keeps you consistent for weeks, months, even years. And consistency compounds. Think about how compound interest works in finance. Small investments that grow over time into something massive. Discipline works the same way. Every small act of consistency adds up, and before long, you've built something extraordinary. There's also a neurological side to discipline. Every time you resist temptation and follow through on what you planned, your brain strengthens the neural pathways associated with self-control. It's like paving a road. At first, it's rough, difficult to travel. But the more you travel it, the smoother it gets, and the easier it becomes to take that route automatically. On the flip side, every time you give in to an excuse, every time you let yourself off the hook, you strengthen the pathways of avoidance and procrastination. This is why habits are so powerful. They literally rewire your brain to make discipline easier over time. But let's be real. Discipline is hard. Nobody is perfectly disciplined all the time. The human brain is wired to seek comfort, to avoid effort, to choose the easiest path. It's a survival mechanism. So when you feel resistance, when you feel the urge to quit, understand that it's not a personal weakness, it's biology. Your brain is trying to protect you from discomfort. The trick is to recognize this and gently push through it. Over time, your tolerance for discomfort grows, and the very thing that once felt impossible becomes second nature. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone who wants to start running every morning. On day 1, they're motivated. They put on their running shoes, they feel great, they think, "This is the new me." But by day 5, the excitement is gone. The bed feels warm. Their mind whispers, "Skip today, you can run tomorrow." If this person relies on motivation, they'll probably give up. But if they build discipline, they'll lace up their shoes anyway, even when they don't feel like it. And after weeks of doing this, something interesting happens. Running becomes automatic. It's no longer a question of, "Do I feel like running today?" It just becomes part of their identity. That's the power of discipline. It transforms effort into habit. Another fascinating psychological principle related to discipline is the implementation intention. This is when you make a clear plan for how and when you'll act, instead of leaving it up to chance. For example, instead of vaguely saying, "I'll work out more," you say, "I will go to the gym at 7 a.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday." That specificity dramatically increases your chances of following through. Why? Because it removes the decision-making process in the moment. You've already decided ahead of time. And the fewer decisions you have to make, the easier it is to stay disciplined. This is why routines are so powerful. They take the burden off willpower by turning repeated actions into habits. If you wake up and automatically go for a walk, you don't need motivation to decide. If you sit down to write at the same time every day, you don't need to argue with yourself about when or whether to start. Discipline thrives in structure. The more structured your environment, the easier it becomes to stay consistent. And here's something most people don't realize. Self-discipline actually gives you more freedom, not less. At first, it feels restrictive. You think, "I don't want rules, I want to live freely." But the reality is, lack of discipline traps you. It traps you in procrastination, in inconsistency, in feeling disappointed in yourself. Discipline, on the other hand, frees you. When you have control over your habits, you're not a slave to your moods or distractions. You get to create the life you want instead of being controlled by impulses you don't want. This is why so many of the world's most successful people emphasize discipline over motivation. Motivation might get you started, but discipline is what finishes the race. Motivation might make you want to read a book, but discipline is what helps you actually finish it. Motivation might inspire you to sign up for a course, but discipline is what helps you graduate. At the end of the day, it's not about how excited you feel, it's about what you consistently do. So if we know that self-discipline is more reliable than motivation, the real question becomes, how do we actually build it in our lives? How do we train the psychological muscle so that it becomes strong enough to carry us through the times when motivation has completely disappeared? The first key is awareness. Most people live on autopilot. They're constantly reacting to their environment, their feelings, their impulses, without even realizing it. They scroll when they're bored, eat when they're stressed, skip work when they're tired. The foundation of discipline begins with becoming aware of these patterns. When you catch yourself giving into an impulse, pause. Ask yourself, is this choice moving me closer to my long-term goals, or just giving me short-term comfort? That moment of awareness is powerful because it creates space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you have the chance to choose differently. The second key is starting small. Discipline doesn't begin with climbing mountains. It begins with taking small, consistent steps that train your brain to follow through. If you've never been able to stick to a workout plan, don't tell yourself you're going to train for 2 hours every day. That's a recipe for failure. Instead, commit to something ridiculously small, like 10 push-ups in the morning. Do it every single day, no matter what. Once that's automatic, increase it. The goal isn't intensity, it's consistency. Small wins compound, and over time they create the foundation for massive transformation. Third, you need to manage your environment. People often think discipline is all about inner strength, but in reality, your environment plays a huge role in shaping your behavior. If your phone is full of distracting apps, it will be harder to stay focused. If your kitchen is full of junk food, it will be harder to eat healthy. Discipline is not just about saying no to temptation, it's about reducing temptation in the first place. Change your surroundings to support your goals. Put your phone in another room when you're working. Prepare healthy meals ahead of time. Lay out your workout clothes the night before. These small adjustments make discipline easier because they reduce friction. Another powerful strategy is accountability. As human beings, we are deeply social creatures. We care about how others perceive us, and we are more likely to follow through when we know someone is watching. This is why workout partners, mentors, or accountability groups are so effective. When you commit to a goal publicly, you increase the pressure to stay disciplined because your reputation is on the line. Use that to your advantage. Share your goals with someone you trust, or create a system where your progress is visible to others. Accountability turns discipline from a private struggle into a shared responsibility. But perhaps the most underestimated tool for building discipline is self-compassion. Many people believe that being hard on themselves is the way to stay disciplined. They think, if I fail, I need to punish myself, I need to be stricter. But psychology tells us the opposite. People who practice self-compassion are actually more resilient and consistent than those who constantly criticize themselves. Why? Because self-compassion keeps you from falling into the trap of all-or-nothing thinking. When you mess up, and you will mess up, you don't spiral into guilt or shame. Instead, you acknowledge the slip-up, forgive yourself, and get back on track. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's about getting back up every time you fall. Let's dive deeper into why discipline is so hard in the first place. Our brains are wired to prioritize immediate rewards over long-term ones. This is called temporal discounting. In simple terms, your brain values a cookie today more than 6-pack abs months from now. It values scrolling on your phone for quick dopamine more than the slow payoff of building a business. That's why long-term goals feel so difficult to chase. They don't give you instant gratification. Discipline is the ability to override this bias, to choose the harder path today because you trust in the bigger reward tomorrow. One way to hack this bias is to create short-term rewards that align with your long-term goals. For example, if you're trying to build a writing habit, allow yourself a small reward after each writing session, a coffee, a walk outside, a favorite song. Over time, your brain begins to associate the disciplined action with a positive feeling, which makes it easier to repeat. Psychologists call this reinforcement, and it's a powerful way to condition yourself into disciplined behavior. There's also the concept of the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes to start, do it immediately. The hardest part of any disciplined action is usually starting. Once you're in motion, momentum takes over. Think about going to the gym. It's not the workout itself that's the hardest, it's putting on your shoes and stepping out the door. By breaking tasks down into a 2-minute starting point, you lower the barrier to entry and increase the likelihood of following through. Now let's talk about identity again, because this might be the single most powerful principle of all. When you tie discipline to your identity, it stops being something you do and becomes something you are. If you see yourself as someone who struggles with procrastination, you'll keep finding excuses. But if you start telling yourself, I am someone who finishes what I start, your brain begins to align your actions with that identity. Every time you follow through, you reinforce that belief. And over time, your identity becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is why affirmations and self-talk matter. They might sound cheesy, but the words you repeat to yourself shape your identity, and your identity shapes your discipline. Stop telling yourself you're lazy or inconsistent. Start telling yourself you're disciplined, reliable, and consistent. Even if it doesn't feel true yet, act as if it is. Your actions will catch up to your words. There's another layer to this, and that's purpose. Discipline without purpose feels like punishment. But discipline connected to a meaningful goal feels like freedom. If you're forcing yourself to do something you don't truly care about, you'll burn out quickly. But if your discipline is serving a goal that deeply matters to you, whether that's building a business, improving your health, supporting your family, or mastering a skill, you'll find it easier to endure discomfort. When the why is strong enough, the how becomes easier. So take time to clarify your why. Ask yourself, why does this goal matter to me? What will my life look like if I stay disciplined for the next year? 5 years? 10 years? Visualize it clearly. The more emotionally connected you are to your long-term vision, the stronger your discipline will be when motivation disappears. Now I want you to remember something important. Discipline is not about grinding yourself into the ground. It's not about living without joy or rest. True discipline includes balance. It means knowing when to push and when to recover. It means scheduling time for rest, fun, and connection so you don't burn out. Without balance, discipline turns into self-punishment. With balance, discipline becomes sustainable. And maybe the most liberating truth about discipline is this: it's not about being extraordinary. It's about doing ordinary things consistently well. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to feel inspired every day. You just need to keep showing up, even in small ways. Over time, those small, ordinary acts of discipline create extraordinary results. So the next time motivation fades, remember this: you don't need motivation to keep going. You need systems. You need structure. You need discipline. When your alarm goes off, when you feel tired, when you don't want to do the work, remind yourself, discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want right now. Every act of discipline is a vote for your future self. Every time you stay consistent, you're casting a ballot for the person you want to become. And here's the final truth: discipline is not about depriving yourself, it's about building yourself. It's about creating the freedom to live the life you dream of, not being trapped by momentary impulses. When motivation fails, and it will, discipline is what carries you forward. So ask yourself today, who do you want to be a year from now? 5 years from now? What future are you willing to build brick by brick, choice by choice, act of discipline by act of discipline? Because that future is possible. It's not waiting for motivation. It's waiting for you to show up, consistently, with discipline. And if you take just one thing from this, let it be this: success isn't about doing it once, it's about doing it again and again and again, even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when nobody is watching. That's the psychology of self-discipline. That's how you stay consistent when motivation fails. This is your reminder: you are stronger than your excuses, you are greater than your impulses, and you are capable of far more than you imagine. Discipline is the key that unlocks that potential. And the best time to start building it is not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. So take that first step today. And then take it again tomorrow. And the day after. Because in the end, your future won't be built by motivation. It will be built by the unstoppable power of your discipline.